A lot of bills to take up today, so we're going to be as expeditious as possible. I'd like to ask people to turn those cell phones off. And if you're going to talk, leave the room so we can hear testimony presented and hear members when they cast their votes. Now, at the author's request, SB 530, this is item 8 on your agenda. This item has been pulled from today's agenda, so we will not hear that item. We have only myself and the vice chair today at this point. Later we'll have other members. There are several other Senate committees meeting at the same time, and members will be coming and going from our committee because they're presenting bills and actually chairing other committees at the same time. So I beg your indulgence. We will have a quorum in order to vote on all the items on our agenda. But for now, we plan to call the meeting to order and start to have hearings on the items. Our first author will be Senator Pavley, item number 1. She is here. Senator Pavley has SB 39. I invite Senator Pavley to come forward and present her bill. This is SB 39 on vehicles, high-occupancy vehicle lanes. Welcome, Senator, and you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, I think you're the only member of the committee here, well, so I'll save my four-hour presentation and be succinct.
Okay.
This bill builds on a bill I had authored way back when I was in the Assembly, and that was to incentivize the use of clean, fuel-efficient vehicles by allowing single-occupancy access to HOV lanes. Tremendously popular program. For those of you who followed it, we had the yellow sticker program. All those 85,000 stickers have been retired. There's no older hybrid vehicles in those HOV lanes. Then fast forward to incentivize and accelerate investment and consumer interest in new technologies. We looked at the plug-in hybrids, the electric hybrid combination plug-in. And so this bill authorizes an additional 15,000 green stickers. That means single occupant driver in the HOV lanes for those plug-in hybrids that will lead us eventually to all electric vehicles for a new cap of 85,000, consistent with the old program for yellow stickers, consistent with the methodology of allowing Caltrans to look at congestion and manage that if that becomes a problem in HOV lanes. To let you know how popular these programs are, I'm from the LA area, tremendously popular for people go and buy these cars, which is what we want to do to meet our clean air and greenhouse gas emission reduction standards because of access to the HOV lanes. Unfortunately, 45% of the existing green stickers are already used up and have been issued, so we need the rest of what's a reasonable amount, same as the yellow stickers for traditional hybrids for the plug-in vehicles, and that should get us through the rest of the year and the next year. So with that, I ask for your aye vote, and if you need some evidence on how popular these are, the Center for Sustainable Energy Studies cited that 59%, almost 60% of ZEV vehicle purchasers rated carpool lane access as a very extremely and very important idea in their purchasing decisions. So I have some witnesses with me today.
Okay, welcome.
For both of you senators that are here.
Well, the chair and the vice chair are here. Well, witnesses, please, for this bill.
I'm Kurt Augustine with the Alliance of Automobile Manufacturers, and we are the sponsors of this bill. And for many of the reasons that Senator Pavley just listed, we are the sponsor, primarily because this is one of the major motivators for consumer behavior in purchasing these vehicles. That the sticker allotment is ending, and we see this as a tremendous way to help incentivize the marketplace to get these vehicles in there. Additionally, we support the bill because we believe it is a cost-free benefit from the state to help us meet the state-imposed ZEV mandate to produce these vehicles, and we think it's a good solution for everyone, and have worked with Caltrans and the DMV, and they find the number in the bill acceptable for their standards. Thank you.
Okay. Other witnesses, please.
Margaret Gladstein on behalf of Global Automakers. For the reason just stated by Mr. Augustine, we too are in strong support. We thank the authors for bringing this forward and the staff and the chair for working with us to keep these vehicles moving.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gil Topidi, Director for Energy for the California Municipal Utilities Association, representing 40 of the state's locally owned electric utilities. We are partners with our customers in the smooth transition to an electric vehicle transportation system. Bills such as SB 39 provide a great motivator for customers to go out and get electric vehicles and then harness our infrastructure and allowing them to charge their electric vehicles. Thank you.
Julie Malinowski-Ball on behalf of the California Electric Transportation Coalition. For all the reasons previously stated, we strongly support this bill.
Thank you. Other witnesses, please come forward, and there's a microphone over here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Vice Chair, Aaron McGuire on behalf of Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, also in support. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Andrew Antwi here on behalf of General Motors. We support.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Melanie Wigner with Ford Motor Company. We strongly support this bill, and we thank Senator Pavley for her efforts.
Good afternoon. Andrew Governor on behalf of Volkswagen Group of America, in support.
Bill McGavin with the Coalition for Clean Air. Our position is support if amended. We agree with the benefits that have been stated for this program. We think that this valuable sticker should be attached to vehicles that reach a minimum level of electric miles, and that would reserve the stickers for those cars that are really providing the greatest benefits in terms of reducing emissions that harm the air and the climate. Thank you.
Okay.
And Jamie Hall with CalSTART in support.
Okay. Other witnesses in support, I see none. Like to call witnesses opposing this bill, please. Are there witnesses at this time opposing the bill? Okay. Okay, questions? Senator Cannella has a question.
Senator Pavley, I spoke to a few of the proponents of the bill, and I expressed a concern that largely it's very wealthy people that buy electric cars, and they get a benefit from using the HOV lanes, and I expressed my frustration with that. A lot of folks in my district can't afford the electric cars. And they mentioned that this is probably the last extension that we give. This is the last batch of stickers. Is that the case, in your opinion?
Well, I have a year left in office, so I can suggest that would be my last thing.
Well, it was more of just Caltrans.
And I believe that that's where the attention should be. First of all, just for the record, it's about 1% to 2% in LA and Ventura County. Sacramento Valley, about 2% of the HOV lane capacity is those. Some people like to carpool, some people have access motorcycles, some people have in all different income levels, obviously, and some people have all electric cars. I would suggest to you, we use this as an incentive to make people feel comfortable and push the technologies and getting out of traditional combustion engines, experimenting with the hybrids, and now you can plug it in and get rid of your range anxiety. We're working on rebates and other kinds of programs to make those kinds of cars more accessible to all income groups, and it's one of my top priorities, and I know you've been working on that too as well, is how can we, through financing plan, or why not take all the rental cars from Enterprise after 3 years of use that are plug-ins and convert them over to average people. Now, that may not solve the green sticker program, because we only have, so many more left. And so this will provide the additional 15,000 stickers to probably end the program. I'm not saying someone else won't come up with an idea. And maybe there's another technology we're not even conceiving of today. But as far as getting the public interested in wanting to purchase these vehicles, it has really made a dent. And I carried the original bill because after I passed this more fuel-efficient, cleaner vehicle thing, I realized at the time the state didn't have the money for all these rebates and things. And so this was the most cost-effective we could do. And argumentatively, a car that gets 70 miles per gallon is just as good, if not better, for the air than two people riding a car together in a 15 mile per gallon truck in the same lane. So it is in limit capacity, but anytime Caltrans feels that it's causing congestion in the lanes, this program can end at their request. And I wish I had a plug-in, but never mind.
Okay, other questions? Senator Pavley, would you like to close?
Yes, very much. I appreciate the chair's discussions that we've had, right,
Yes.
Senator Bell, on this item. And this is a good way to, frankly, in my opinion, thank the automobile manufacturers for really stepping up to the plate the last few years and creating these cars for tomorrow. And it's our collective interest, whether it's expenditure of auction revenues or other kinds of rebates, to make cleaner, more fuel-efficient cars available to a broader section of the community, and that's one of my goals. But this is about limited space in HOV lanes, so I ask for your aye vote for these additional 15,000 green stickers.
Okay, thank you, Senator Pavley. We will take a vote on this item when we reach a quorum. Appreciate you attending the meeting, presenting your bill. We'll go next to Senator Huff's bill. This is item 2. Yes, Senator, you are here, SB 218. And Senator Huff, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With permission, I'd like to pass out some handouts that have some collaterals that are important to this discussion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Chairman and member. We have members now. Senator Connie Leyva, and I see you. SB 218 does the following. It makes clear the intent of the legislature to ensure consistency of regulated traffic enforcement law throughout the state, and it clarifies that the California Vehicle Code does not permit the use of an automated traffic enforcement system at any place where traffic is regulated by a stop sign in the state of California. Since the early 1990s, automated traffic enforcement systems have been widely used by government authorities as a form of traffic enforcement. In California, automated enforcement systems are almost exclusively red light cameras. California law explicitly authorizes the use of, quote, red light cameras for the purpose of traffic enforcement. Current law also establishes clear parameters for the placement, use, and monitoring of these systems. There are explicit limitations on how red light camera systems can be operated and protections to ensure that managing operators are not generating additional tickets to bolster revenues. These are important due process protections associated with the use of automated traffic enforcement systems established by the legislature over time. Current law does not authorize the use of an automated traffic enforcement system at any place where traffic is regulated by a stop sign. Operating these systems outside the purview of rules established for the use of automated enforcement systems under the California Vehicle Code exposes Californians to arbitrary placement and enforcement of traffic control devices, as well as a lack of due process and accountability. Currently, the only known stop sign camera program is in operations is managed by the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority, which is a joint powers authority comprised of the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, Conejo Recreation and Park District, and the Rancho Simi Recreation Park District. With 7 stationary devices in operation and at $100 per violation, these systems are unlawfully extracting millions of dollars in penalties from California drivers. Because the MRCA's stop sign camera system is operated outside the California Vehicle Code, citizens who receive these tickets must appeal through an internal MRCA administrative process, not the California Superior Court system, thus denying citizens their legal due process. Jay Bieber with Safer Streets LA is available to answer any questions you may have. I would like to point out to you first, if you have these things in front of you, there's a map that just shows locations with these scattered throughout this park district, and a couple of illustrations follow. The first one that I think you have looks like this. That was eventually removed because of popular outcry. And if you look at any engineering, any city, some of you have been on city councils, you know you got to go through an engineering study, and there's some rules and regulations at how you place stop signs. These illustrations follow none of that guideline. So what you end up with is arbitrarily placed stop signs, and the motorists look at that and say, what the heck, you know, like, is this like a joke or something? Because it doesn't look serious. And my witness can certainly talk about that more as he's more aware of everything, but I draw your attention to the last one where they have a stop sign as you're leaving the park and getting onto Topanga Canyon Boulevard, and you would normally have a yield sign there because you need to merge and get up to speed of Topanga Canyon. Instead, they have a stop sign, and if you happen to roll through that, you're going to get a ticket. So I appreciate your listening to this interesting discussion, and I have my expert witness here with me today.
All right. Witnesses, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Jay Bieber. I'm the Executive Director of Safer Streets LA and also a research fellow with the Reason Foundation. I also recently served on a subcommittee of the California Traffic Devices Control Committee looking at the yellow light timing in the state of California, and those new protocols will be out and be required starting in August 1st, and that was something that this committee had asked to have done. So thank you very much for that, and nice to see you all again. The MRCA stop sign program is really just a symptom of the fact that joint powers authorities were not covered originally when they wrote the vehicle law. They probably didn't even exist at the time. And so our interest is that the vehicle code needs to be consistent throughout the state of California, and what happens is when you don't follow the vehicle code and you don't follow proper engineering protocols, you have situations such as what we have with the MRCA stop sign cameras. So they put stop signs in places which are, quite frankly, silly, and places where you would never have a stop sign or never need a stop sign, or put them in places where people are confused, and it encourages people to roll through them. And then they say, well, we need additional enforcement because people are not obeying these stop signs, so then we have to put in stop sign cameras. And then we're ticketing 25,000 people a year at 7 locations. And so what our interest is, not specifically towards the MRCA in particular, but that the vehicle code needs to be consistent throughout the state of California, and they need to follow proper engineering protocols, and nowhere in the vehicle code does it permit the use of automated enforcement for stop signs. This body, as well as the rest of the legislature, has gone through a lot of work in terms of determining what the protocols are if you're going to use automated enforcement. You have to get the person's picture, and you need to cite the driver of the vehicle. That does not happen here. You have certain protocols that have to be followed in terms of the adjudication process. That does not happen here. So what we are asking for is that the MRCA and every other entity be covered under the vehicle code and follow whatever protocols are put forth that the legislature deems necessary. As far as some of these other locations, and I just want to give you a couple of anecdotal stories here very quickly, which is what happened very quickly. Okay. What happened to one person is they had a up at one of these parks, they had a memorial service for someone, and they had about 20, 30 people that came up there, and all of them got a nice thank you from the MRCA of a $100 ticket for this memorial service that they were up there. Other people bring their kids to camp and things of that nature. So this is what's happening, and this is how the public, unfortunately, is being abused by this program.
Okay, other witnesses, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and members of the committee, Tim Chang with the Auto Club of Southern California. I don't want to repeat the prior testimony. I think they covered it pretty well. We are for a uniform application of all laws in the state. Unfortunately, when the vehicle code does not encompass these JPAs, when a person runs a stop sign on a regular city street, they are charged with a crime. They go through the regular judicial process. They face state mandated penalties, and as well as points that might bring them before the Department of Motor Vehicles. And so, when you have an enforcement mechanism like this with the Mountains Conservancy, it is a civil procedure. None of those penalties apply, and we think that the enforcement and the penalties in the laws of the state shouldn't be different depending on where you get cited.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman and members, Barry Broad with the Teamsters. I bet 100% of the Democrats and 100% of the Republicans in the state of California agree with this bill. This kind of thing, it's like a speed trap. It's a speed trap issue, and it creates cynicism because it's not about safety, it's about revenue. And that's not what safety laws should be about.
Okay, thank you.
Virgin I vote.
Okay, other witnesses in favor of this bill, please come forward. Witnesses opposed, please come forward, please. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Tim Yarian, representing the Mountains Recreation Conservation Authority.
Okay.
I'd like to clarify the committee some misstatements of fact. To begin with, we go back to 2007 and SB 949 by Jenny Oropeza, and that bill dealt with local governments and programs where local ordinances were duplicating state law, and that bill eliminated them. There was an exception in the vehicle code for one public entity, and that was the MRCA. That was accepted from the vehicle code for one very good reason, which everybody agreed with at the time, and that is this particular park is located in a very urban setting right next to the 101 freeway, and we had a tremendous problem with commuters using the park to shortcut. The shortcuts created a tremendous public safety hazard. Understand in these parks, this is not like a regular residential street, public highway. These are very narrow roads that were constructed back in the 1920s. They're very narrow, they're very winding, and they're used by lots of pedestrians. Hikers use these roads as trails, and they're just walking in the middle of the street. And we had a problem because people late for work would be rushing through the park, and we needed to find a way to curb the speed to protect the people that use the park visitors. And this program was established in order to slow people down, in order to stop them. It's not a criminal program. It's a program that has been challenged in court. A three-judge panel, in the case of Kaufman versus MRCA, upheld the legitimacy of this program. It's a totally lawful program. It's been exempt from the vehicle code, and it's because of the very unique park settings. To correct some other statements, there's no points that are charged for drivers. This is operated like public parking is in California. It's administrative. You get a citation. You can contest a citation. You can do it by phone call. You can do it personally. You can do it by letter. And it's all appealable. If you don't like the result of it, you can go to court and have this judicially reviewed. So there's no loss of due process in this. This is a critical program for us because what it does is allow our rangers to do other park enforcement activities, vandalism, fire, and other things, so that they're not jammed having to deal with these commuters who are, coming through the park at all hours of the night. It's also supported by lots and lots of park visitors and people who use the park. It's their safety that we put this program in. This is not a revenue program to generate us. We don't pay for this program from our park revenues. The park revenues that we get from this go into park purposes, not for enforcement of the program. So there's no blood money involved in this. So I think, Mr. Huff, while I know that there are people here that, don't like this because they got, a ticket, it's an administrative ticket. There's no points charged to anybody. It's just to keep the park safe for the visitors and users there. With respect to the placement of stop signs, I don't mean to take up more of the committee's time, but there's one that I think the sign is located like 28 feet or something from the intersection, and I think the consultant brought that up in the analysis. And the reason for that is there's a very narrow winding road, and you can't see the intersection. And so the traffic engineer recommended we place the stop sign before the intersection so people don't flying around a blind corner and run into people or run into other cars. So that location was there. Every single stop sign has been determined by a public safety engineer. They've looked at it. They made the best placements available, and they're not always consistent with what we do under the vehicle code because you're dealing with narrow, windy mountain roads, not public streets, and so we have to be a little creative. Anyway, thank you very much. We oppose the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Aaron. Any opponents left to speak? Senator Huff, do you want to respond or close, please?
I do want to respond. If the chair would like, I would like my expert witness, who's much more familiar with and has been in there numerous times, to answer specifically about the 2007 law, SB 949, the court case that was cited, as well as the due process where he said it could be appealed to the Superior Court and no lack of due process.
Thank you.
Please.
Yes, I just want to make it clear, I've never gotten one of these tickets. I haven't gotten a traffic ticket since the late 80s, so I want to make that perfectly clear. In terms of the Kaufman decision, there have been other court cases where they have decided the opposite of this. They were based on demurs that were put in because they were different kinds of cases. But the Kaufman decision was very narrowly decided. What was decided in that case was that there was nothing in the record that showed that the location of the stop signs were on roadways as per the vehicle code. So it was not, they didn't discuss that issue at all. It just said it wasn't in the record, therefore we can't rule in favor of the defendant in this particular case. So that's number one. Regarding the court reviewing this, because this is administrative, what the court does when you pay your additional $25 to get to court, even if you're willing to do that, is the court says, did the MRCA follow their rules that they set out in their ordinance to ticket you? They don't look at it de novo. They don't look at it as an original case and decide whether the placement of the stop signs were right or any of those sorts of things. They say, did they follow the procedure? Yes, they followed the procedure. Yeah. And as far as the 949, I actually want to defer to Tim Chang from the Auto Club. He was here and intimately involved in that process.
Go ahead, quickly.
Mr. Chair, again, Tim Chang for the Auto Club of Southern California. Yes, we were there and at every step of the way on the SB 949 issue. We were sort of the de facto sponsors of that bill with Senator Oropeza. With regard to the provision regarding the MRCA, the intent there was to, the senator didn't want to get into the middle of what the MRCA was doing, and therefore, we crafted that section to say, to the extent provided by law, or to the extent that they have authorization. We weren't saying that they actually had authorization. We were leaving it up in the air, saying, to the extent that they do, this bill doesn't do anything. But we're not making a determination on whether they do have the power or not.
Senator Leyva has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Senator Huff. I'm a little confused. The pictures that we're looking at are in Senator Pavley's district?
Correct.
So if this were to pass and become a law, it would affect only her district in the state?
No, the people that are getting citations are all over the state. It's a state park, Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, in which these tickets are being cited. And what they're doing is, when it's convenient, they're citing the vehicle code as justification. When it's inconvenient, they say they're not to it. What the bill would do is make any roads like this on any joint powers authority, which wasn't contemplated, we believe, back when the vehicle code was crafted. It would include joint powers authorities, which are multiple jurisdictions that band together to form one legal entity. So it would just mean uniform application throughout the state.
So it's happening in other places, not just the
This
pictures
is the
that we
only
see.
known place in the United States where you have stop sign cameras. The code talks about stop light cameras. It is quiet on stop sign cameras. And you think about red lights. When you come to it, you have a yellow light, and people tend to want to go through and push the envelope. That's really why they started putting cameras there, to enforce that, because you're creating safety issues. In this case, they didn't even go through an engineering study to justify the placement of stop signs like every other legal jurisdiction has to do. They placed them in very arbitrary places, and then when cars would roll through them because they didn't make sense, in many cases, people thought they had stopped completely. They would get a ticket in the mail later on thanking them for their park visit. It doesn't include pictures of the person. It just says the car was there at that particular time. So it goes after the car owner as opposed to the driver, like the vehicle code does on other sections. So for all those reasons, even though it is only being deployed in one particular district, this is a statewide impact and certainly a statewide response.
Did Senator Pavley co-author the bill?
She did not, and it will be before her committee next week.
Second question. I'm sorry, expert, I don't remember your name.
Jay Bieber, thank you.
Thank you. You said that it is illegal for automated enforcement of stop signs. So if that's true, why do we need the bill?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
You said that automated enforcement of stop signs is illegal. So if it's illegal,
It's not permitted under the vehicle code.
So how have they been able to operate all this time?
That's been our question, quite frankly, and
if it is illegal, don't you just enforce the law? We don't need a new bill?
Right, and that's the question is they're not following the law, and they keep saying, sue us if you don't like it, sue us, sue us, sue us, and there's, court cases that have taken, clogging up the courts continuously because, they get, one ruling this way, one ruling the other way. This bill was our understanding when Senator Huff asked us about it, was that this would clarify it once and for all, so we don't have to keep going back and forth through court cases. They've cited what they've cited here.
It resolves a dispute, basically, the bill.
Okay.
It resolves it one way. Of course, you can resolve it the other way if you want.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, so this resolves it one way, right?
The correct way.
Okay. Okay. Other questions from other senators? Okay, thank you, Senator Huff. When we have a quorum, we'll take a vote on this bill.
Okay, can I have a quick close here?
Yes, sir.
California law has expressed clear intent that traffic enforcement shall be consistent and just throughout the state and shall not operate outside of California Vehicle Code, and that hits to Senator Leiva's question. SB 218 with amendments further clarifies this by prohibiting statewide the use of automated traffic enforcement devices any place where traffic is regulated by a stop sign. SB 218 also makes clear no entity, public or private, may operate such a program outside of the California Vehicle Code. I think it's time we get some consistency and clarification. People that visit, it is a state resource. We have people from all districts that are visiting the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, and I would ask that it be consistent with the Vehicle Code and ask for your aye vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. We'll take up that bill when we reach a quorum. Thank you. Item 3 is the next item we'll take up, and that's SB 400. Senator Lara is here. Senator, you have the floor. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to first thank the committee staff for working with my office on this bill. Let me begin by accepting the amendments suggested on page 4 and 5 of the analysis as author amendments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. Through last year's budget process, the legislature appropriated hundreds of millions of cap-and-trade dollars to the High-Speed Rail Authority for acquisition, construction, planning, and other costs associated with the project. Once the project is completed, it would have a significant beneficial effect on greenhouse gas emissions in California, equivalent to removing an estimated 31,000 vehicles from California's roads by 2022. The intent of this bill is to provide additional criteria to ensure that a portion of the cap-and-trade revenues appropriated to the authority are directed to projects and measures that provide a more immediate benefit to reducing emissions. SB 400 specifies that not less than 25% of the cap-and-trade funds allocated for the high-speed rail project construction will be spent on environmental mitigation of the project, including measures that will provide a co-benefit of reducing greenhouse gas emissions and improving air quality. The amendments that we are accepting help clarify the kinds of projects that will be eligible: public transit improvements, congestion relief, bicycle and pedestrian routes, and carbon sequestration projects. Many of the communities along the proposed high-speed rail project route are regions that are already disproportionately impacted by poor air quality. Residents living in the close proximity to heavily congested transportation corridors through the Central Valley and the Los Angeles Basin already suffer adverse health effects from increased emissions. This bill prioritizes those projects in those communities that we know are going to have the additional impact of having the high-speed rail go through their communities. I respectfully ask for your aye votes.
So Senator, I'd like to just summary, the intent of the bill is to make a nexus between the investment and the cap-and-trade dollars on the high-speed rail with greenhouse gas emissions.
Correct.
Essentially, that's
pretty much. We think that this bill further creates that cohesion for the use of cap-and-trades and further intensifies the nexus for that.
Okay, thank you. We have witnesses, please.
Bill McGavin with the Coalition for Clean Air in support. This bill is good for the climate, good for the air, good for transportation. We know that high-speed rail, once completed, will reduce emissions in the long run, but we need to reduce emissions soon, and this bill would provide more of a balance by addressing that shorter-term need, and as the chairman points out, providing that nexus between the source of the funding, the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, and the spending on high-speed rail. By mixing in transit, active transportation, cleaner construction equipment, these are all very appropriate uses for the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, and we urge your support for the bill.
Okay, can we have please other witnesses in favor? I see none. Witnesses opposing this bill, please come forward. I see none. Questions? No questions. Senator, do you have the floor for a close?
I just respectfully ask for your aye vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Senator. We will vote when we reach a quorum. Thank you.